Now is the time. A time you'll look back on. A time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time. This moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome. Take over. The time is now.
Hello. We're back again. All right, lads. What's the crack?
Evening, mate.
Yeah,
right.
All good, pal. All good.
Evening, boys.
I'm going to go straight to it and say, as I did before, I remember, we are 38 subscribers away from 3K. Did you know that, lads?
Come on, that's dragging on now. Get your asses into gear, will you?
Just press the button. Get us
Press
over
the
the
button,
line.
hit the
It's
sub,
free,
and
it's
get
free.
us to 3K tonight. While we're on, get us to 3K tonight.
Martin's not leaving until
9 o'clock.
That 3K.
You can bring the 38 on after I've gone off. I don't care. It's all for the good of the channel.
Okay, we're all good. We're all good anyway. So we get no Chris tonight. Chris is busy selling Avon somewhere. You know the usual crack with Chris. But
Villa just taking the lead, lads.
Yeah.
That's within 3 minutes.
Sure, I have to talk out there.
Look at Klopp. Go on, you big doik, you. Who scored
Was it Ollie Watkins?
No, it didn't.
No.
Is it? Yeah, Douglas Luiz
Okay.
with a goal. 3 minutes 19 gone.
Man City.
Coming.
Anyway,
So ball in from Digne.
Sorry,
Comes
Mark,
out
we
to
can
the
see it.
outside.
yeah.
Sorry, we can see it.
Yeah. We will get a strike now for obviously letting that play live on Sky Sports.
We don't care about that. Let's talk Newcastle. And who better to talk Newcastle with than the dynamic duo of Mitch, Mystic Mitch, and Positive Penman. All right, lads.
Good evening, all. How are you?
All right, lads.
Good to see you.
See the lads.
All well with you? All good?
Yeah, fantastic. All good. All good indeed.
See, I'm pretending we didn't talk before we came on there, but we talked on there, so we kind of repeating ourselves, saying hello again. But anyway, that's showbiz, I guess. Let's get on with it. Let's get straight to it, lads. And I'm going to hit you with a very loaded question, as I said in some earlier tweets, to kickstart the show. And this should set you up nicely for a while at least. So here's the question. Realistically, outline what the future holds for Newcastle next season. Squad incomings and outgoings. What would you like to see? How much shall be spent and why? Targets in terms of league position and cup runs. And the CEO and sporting director, their initial objectives. So take any bit of that you want and drive it on from there.
You want to go first, Mitch?
Can do, mate, if you like.
Yeah, crack on.
I mean,
Age before BV.
Aye. As ever. I mean, realistically, this is something everybody's probably heard me bang on about for months. Squad management. It's something under Ashley we were abominable at. We went through the Pardew phase where we had about 10 million left backs. We've ended up in the squad we've got now is partly still made up of people that were promoted from the championship under Rafa, and that's now a while ago, and so the management of that squad's been appalling, and we need to be looking at what do we need to do to satisfy the requirements of the Premier League squad makeup. What do we need to do to satisfy the depth, to improve the depth of the squad? And where do we want to make premium signings? Where do we want to make big statements, if any? And what are the priorities to strengthen? For me, we need somebody who has the potential to get 20 goals a season up front and stay fit. We've got the potential of 20 goals a season in Callum Wilson, but it's clear he doesn't stay fit. So we need somebody to take that load off. We've got somebody in Chris Wood who run through a brick wall. He could probably do a full season, but he's not a prolific goal scorer. We need somebody who's a combination of the above, and then have the luxury of Wilson and Wood sitting on the bench perhaps to make impact. So that's one area we need. We need somebody, I think, who's more aggressive in the midfield to take control of the midfield. I still think we could do with another dominant centre back, and I'd like to see we wrap up Matt Target to get the left back position covered fully. I think he's proved to be such a steady and reliable player that it will be a nonsense not to sign him if the deal that I believe is in place for him is 15 million minus the loan fee already paid. I'd pay that all day long. I think that's a value for him at that position. And that's the kind of squad modification we need. But we also need to be aware of what the rules are for the Premier League in terms of squad. And so things like putting a year on Dummett, that makes sense because he classes as homegrown, and he covers 2 positions, and he's Premier League experienced. You wouldn't have any worry dropping him into a side if somebody was injured or suspended for a game. You know, it's that kind of sensible calmness and rational decisions that then, if you give a nice platform, then you can bring the big names in and spend the big money. And that's the kind of squad awareness and management we've got to have now. And it cannot be any worse than what we had under Bruce and what we've had previously under Ashley, because managers have been hamstrung by Ashley. Now we've got a manager who seems like he's going to be able to make the decisions he wants. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he wants to evolve the squad from here. Stu.
Well, I'm a bit more gung-ho in my opinions, I suppose, because I'm a believer in any team is as strong as its weakest link. And I believe there's a huge cull required, and we need to be ruthless, but again, maintain the core. And you'd include the January signings as part of the core now, because the way they've integrated into the setup. But yeah, you have to ask yourself like certain questions. Like, there's probably 100,000 different opinions of what Newcastle United should do. But the one thing we should all be thankful for now, it's the owners in charge. It'll be their decision. They won't advertise who they're getting. They won't leak to this press. So anyone who's saying they're going to spend only 50 million, they'll only spend 80 million or whatever, nobody knows, because I think they'll spend what's required to get to where they want to get to as quickly as possible, without messing up the makeup of the team. So let me turn the question back on you and say, right, if we sold some of the players and released some of the players who were surplus to requirements, again, these players are, in my opinion, how much do you think we would get for Matt Ritchie? Let's have a tally going.
I'd say a couple of million if you're lucky.
Yeah, I agree, a couple of million.
Maybe 3
2 million?
max. Maybe 3 max.
2.5.
Right, 2.5 million. What about for Gale?
I'd say
5.
because he's a goal scorer, maybe 5, 6 at a push if you were lucky.
Right, so we'll keep it the low figure.
I said 5 at a push, so I'd go with 5.
So we're at 7.5 then. Then Isaac Hayden.
8.
Yeah, maybe 8.
So we're at 15.5. Kieran Clark. He's got 4 or 5 years left on his contract.
3.
Couple of million.
3.
Right.
4 million.
I think
that's
you get a bit for Clark, I think.
Right, say 3 million. So we're at 18.5. Jamal Lewis.
12. 10.
Yeah,
Well, let's round it up to 30 then, from 18.5. So say 11.5. Then Carl Darlow.
7 maybe.
Yeah. 7.
Right, so 37. Mark Gillespie, maybe he's $1 million.
Yeah, 1.5 maybe.
There's 38. we could release Sean Longstaff, release Fernandez at the end of the contract. So there's 38 million. We're in credit already. So this is where I would bring in Mitch, because realistically, again, having to play with all the rules that are seem to be altering on a monthly basis to try and stop our progress. How much could we get for a new shirt sponsor, a new stand sponsor, a new training ground sponsor? You know, you're talking of bringing in, I would say, 100 million. Yeah, quite easily. So you're at over 138 million.
Stu.
Yeah, that's conservative. Yeah, I think 150 million, and I think that's realistically what we'll spend, because I think it's universally accepted we need to improve the spine of the team, and anyone that they bring in will improve the team. And this is why I think we can be relaxed, we can be comfortable knowing that we've got people in charge who want us to get better and want us to get better as quickly as possible. They're not just going to let us drift away. And I know Mitch has used the go ship expression before. You know, we've got people who really want to advance this team, the squad, the club, the city, and put us on the global stage, because it benefits them. And we have to remember that they haven't bought us. I was speaking to Pete earlier. They haven't bought us as a vanity project or as a toy, like what Abramovich did for Chelsea. They bought us to make money and to promote Saudi Arabia globally. And the only way they can do that is if we're successful. So I know someone's put themselves there, but I'll keep them as a squad member, captain, keep the core, etc. So there's 150 million raised that we didn't have, and that's without touching Adidas or Nike coming in to replace who we have currently. So if that's the budget, then let's say we've had people saying 50 million that's all they're going to get. We heard that in January as well, didn't we? They're only the maximum 50 million. So it's all big dogs cock, if you want for a bit of a phrase thing. But we're up to 200 million and we've only spent 50, which is well within our financial fair play. So then it's where do you spend the 200 million? We've talked about the spine of the team. So you're going to keep out to challenge Dubravka. You get a commanding centre half. You get a ball-winning centre midfielder. You get an attacking midfielder, and you get a centre forward. So there's your spine. There's 5. That means you can sign 5 40 million pound players. 5 40 million pound players. 5 Brunos. Put it that way. So then you're not going to spend 40 million on the keeper. So that gives you surplus to go further. And for everyone who's watched me on podcasts over the last year or so, I'm a big fan of Calvin Phillips and what he can do to this team. And I would go all in and get Calvin Phillips, because that's what we need. And I think the last couple of games, I know we're playing the 2 best teams in the world, but it shows how we just get ran over in midfield. There was no one there to break up their play, you know, with a bit of nastiness, but also who can get the ball and use it, retain it, recycle it, and advance us up the pitch. So I would have Calvin Phillips there. I think we have to admit that Bruno's going to be a starter, not just next season, but for as long as he wants to be, if he carries on performing the way he is. So then we've got the attacker midfielder. Now we're hearing Paqueta's been touted quite loudly, and because he's friends. I don't think you buy someone because they're their friend. You know what I mean? I think we tried that with Saint-Maximin's friend as well, didn't we? But Paqueta's a proven Brazilian international, so he would be a fantastic addition. Again, an improvement to the team, an improvement to the squad. But I'm here, and I know Mitch and Steve Hasty have also heard similar, that we're very close to finalising a Jesse Lingard deal. And to me, he's more of an Eddie Howe style player. He's Premier League proven, and he's got something to prove as well. You know, I'm sure he's really annoyed the way he's been left adrift at Man United, and they didn't even put him on for the last couple of minutes to say farewell to the fans. You know, so he's going to come back angry. He thinks he can force his way into the World Cup squad. So that could be exciting. But then you've got a choice. Do you have him or Paqueta? You know, which one would you have in the attacking midfield role? You know, because either of them will improve what we've got. That's not just to dismiss Joe Willock, who's come on greatly in the second half of this season, but I always think he does better in the second half of the games. You know, he seems to go missing in the first half, and then maybe it's because he's younger and fitter. He seems to show more positively near the end of the game if we keep him on the pitch. But if we're going to advance where we need to advance, then these decisions have to be made. Then up front, do we get Nunes? Do we get what's his name? Is it Schick? Anyone's got to be. Any one of those two would be fabulous for us as long as we've got the players to give them the ball. So irrespective of what Saint-Maximin said, you can flip it the other way. You can have the best centre forward in the world, but if there's no one crossing the ball or feeding them the passes, he's not going to score, is he? So you've got to build a structure, and if any successful team has a strong spine. Even if you go back to the Blackburn team that won the league, they had Flowers, they had Hendry, they had Sherwood, they had Shearer, right down the middle. And the rest is all decoration. And if you've got good players, it brings good players on. With Joe Ellington being the best example. So the last bit of transfer thing I would say is, would anyone swap Allan Saint-Maximin for Marcus Rashford? Because in my opinion, Allan Saint-Maximin feels that he's leaving. He doesn't gel with the team. He doesn't fit in, and that's fine if you want to be a loner. It's not compulsory to be popular in the dressing room or be one of the lads, as long as he produces on the pitch. But I said jokingly last week on Jolie's Here, Jolie's There, he's talking about winning the Ballon d'Or, sorry. He couldn't win a balloon at the Hoppins for his performance over the last 3 months. And that's being kind. But yes, he has the talent, but is he producing it? We don't want people who can be very good on social media and very bad on the pitch. If he's reproducing it on the pitch, get him in, keep him in, help him with the extra players. If he's not, then he is becoming a bad egg. Let's get rid. 50 million swapping for Rashford. I would say yes at the moment because he's more of a team player, and to me, he's more Premier League proven and consistent. He will get more goals and more assists than what Saint-Maximin's proven. Might be controversial, but that's just my opinion. So who do you spend the rest of the money on after Phillips? I wrote down, let's say there's a Botman type style in centre half. Keep Shaw with him and have Dan Burn as cover. And because Dan Burn has played fantastic since he's arrived, as most, in fact, all of the newcomers have, and some of the existing squad, to get from where we were to where we are. Then I would also think if you're taking Paqueta or Nunes or Schnick, at left back, if it was a dream list, who would you want and who would fit in this style of play and who I think would fit in Eddie Howe's style of play? I'd love Kieran Tierney from Arsenal. I really would. And if Arsenal don't get in the Champions League, then there could be a chance because he's closer to Scotland. He can see what's happening with us. But realistically, it would be Matty Target, and I would like to sign as cover Aaron Hickey, who was at Hearts, and that before this team's Hearts, and I flew when I was over. I went up to the Hearts semi-final. But I watched Aaron Hickey as a 16-year-old play in the cup final against against Celtic 3 years ago. I went over for that game, and he was 16, and he was one of the best players on the pitch, if not the best player on the pitch. And he could have went to Bayern Munich. He could have went to I can't remember who else, but he chose Bologna because he knew he'd get into regular games. And as a young kid, he's learnt the language straight away, and his willingness. And he's unfortunate with Scotland because he's got Robertson and Tierney ahead of him. But he's young enough to develop, and he can learn from someone like Matty Target and Paul Dummett as well. Because Paul Dummett is a sound defender. So that would be who I would add to the squad. You don't have to buy 10 players. You need to trim like I said, core the weakest links, and then add just pure quality to the squad. And once you've got that, we will go from where we are now to where we were. Because if you add Howe, if he was in charge at the start of the season, look at those games that we lost and didn't win. Would we, if with him with a full pre-season with our squad, would we have beaten Norwich? I would have said yes. Would we have beat Brentford? I'd say yes. Would we have beat Southampton? Yes. So even just those 3 games, there's 6 points already. Add them to where we are. We're top 8, I think. We're not far from it, and there's other games that we could be doing. So it's where the owners find us to be acceptable at the end of next season, and how much are they willing to put into it, and is Eddie Howe willing to manage big name players? And these are the questions that we'll find out, and it's going to be so bloody exciting.
Positive Penman, everyone.
That's it.
He's back. Lord. I'm
See,
going to go good. Sorry, go ahead, Mitch.
No, I'm done. See, I think what you're going to see we do, and I sort of touched on this last time I was on with, is I think very much like January. I think our transfer policy will be fluid. We'll not have parameters set. We'll make some canny free signings. I think there's some interesting Bosmans to be picked up potentially, and I think your find will be ahead on that. I think we'll see 2 or 3 wrap up pretty quickly, and then I think, as Stu says, I don't think there'll be a set budget. I think they'll spend what they feel what they've got to spend. I think if a deal's there to be made, they'll make it. And I'm also still come back to being aware of some of the things that were happening in the background in January. Don't be surprised if there's not a marquee signing that certainly PIF and the Saudi market would be crying out for. They would love a name to promote the brand, to promote shirt sales, to go hand in hand with what they want to do with the club going forward. Because we are, let's be honest, a vehicle to help promote things like Saudi tourism, for example. And so I think we've got to look at how that's going to work and understand that the owners, if there's something that is going to be beneficial to do and it's a deal, I don't think they'll have set budgets in mind. I think they'll do the deal that they feel they want to do if it's the right deal. And I think as a fan base, we've become locked into this mindset over the last 14 years of disappointment to expect to be disappointed. And I think I won't criticise any of our fans who get a little bit carried away because we're kind of allowed to. And I think we've got to ignore some of the bullshit that'll be thrown at us along the way, because there will be. There'll be plenty of crap chucked our way, as ever. You know, even this last week, seen articles written about how Liverpool's clever spending in January might have won them the title. And you're like, hang on a minute, they're allowed to spend money in January, but we weren't. To change the destiny of our season, give over. You know, so I think there might be some surprises in line. It wouldn't surprise me to see if something left field happen at all. And I think it would be interesting then to see what Howe's ability to manage the real top players, for example, could be. And I think that would be an interesting thing to see develop as well.
Yeah, there's a few comments there, Mitch, that we're aware of. That's like Messi's in Jeddah, and he's been appointed the ambassador for Saudi tourism. Now, considering one of the favourite phrases over the last couple of years being geopolitics, it shows that the thawing has happened quite rapidly. There's a World Cup in Qatar later this year, and I often refer to the Middle East being like a playground or a very large sandpit, and the biggest boys in the sandpit are Saudi Arabia. So this is why I still believe they will make a marquee signing. It might go fly in the face of public opinion, but the Takeover did that. Do we really care? You know, if it benefits Newcastle United now, if you're, I mean, pick a player at the team. If you're a Fabian Shaw and you're on, for example, 60,000 a week, and I'll play devil's advocate, so I'm not saying this will happen. Let's say the PIF did manage to attract Lionel Messi to Newcastle. How would they sell it? First of all, he's won everything he needs to. He can win now apart from the World Cup. So they could even use the advantage that you won't have European games. You just have the league games to concentrate on. And then, as I said, he's got his legacy in the Middle East. He knows for life. He's made for life anyway. But lucratively, if he does well for someone like Newcastle, who are basically funded by the PIF, he's going to have ambassadorial roles forever. You know, and it's a market that is well worth conquering, and Mitchell vouched for that living here. You know, he could be on every billboard, every milk bottle, you know, every yogurt pot, and that's the same could be said for Mo Salah. You know, he's Arabic. You know, why we want the best Arabic? He's not Arabic. He's African, but we want the best Arabic speaking player. Why not? You know, if Liverpool win the Champions League this year, there you go. He's done it twice. He doesn't need to win it a third time. And it's not about money with him. You know, but if you're on, say, 50, 60 grand a week and said, right, lads, we're going to bring in someone like Lionel Messi, and he's going to get $500,000 a week, would you not be just delighted to see you're in that team? You know, and that you played with them. And that's where the elevation comes, and that's where they can justify the extra sponsorship. And that's where the money starts coming in. Now, remember, they bought Newcastle, as I touched on, for two reasons: to make money and to globally promote Saudi Arabia in a positive light. And if by buying Newcastle, it needs to be a successful Newcastle for that to happen. So I'm not saying everything's going to happen instantly, but they'll make it happen as quick as possible. Now, whether that's the test it comes to with Eddie Howe. And don't get me wrong, I was a huge advocate of Eddie Howe being the manager even before the manager. And as myself, Mitch, and Steve Hasty said, we knew he was interviewed for the job when Ashley was still there, in case Bruce was going to throw his toys out the pram because there was no budget. So I think he's a forward-thinking manager. He's tactically aware. He gets the best out of what he's got. But he's never had these big-name players. So he's passed his first test. Not just admirably, he's passed it with flying colours superbly. And that was his remit, was keep us up. But he hasn't just kept us up, he's made us an attractive proposition. Whereas I think come Christmas, everyone on this panel, everyone watched it, would have said, give me 17 for the last day of the season and I'll take it. Every single person would have said that. But for the last 3, 4, 5 games, we haven't had to worry about it. We know we're safe, and we're actually been looking up. You know, like, could we get 9th? Could we get 10th? It doesn't matter. We're not 18th, 19th, or 20th. But the fact is, anyone who watched us in January, remember these transfers that we got? Chris Wood, overpaid. He's just a big plank. He's useless. Target can't even get in the Aston Villa team. You're wasting even that's alone. Dan Burn, what a waste. He's a journeyman. Struggles to get in the Brighton team. Trippier, he's only went for the money. And it's Trippier, not Trippier, as the people pronounce it like he's French. He's not. It's Kieran Trippier. So every sign we got Bruno, he's what was the criticism of Bruno? He's not Premier League established. He's not. He won't be able to keep up with the pace. And we got laughed at. And now, because they've all succeeded, yes, because you spent money. Because we were the only club allowed to spend money. That transfer window was fantastic. You know, we could have signed more players if we wanted because we were the only team allowed to do it. So it makes you laugh. Why we're bothered about what other people think? It's what we do, and more importantly, what the owners want this club to be is successful. And this is more exciting than the Keegan years for those who remember, because we can't. Messi's name would be on everyone's shirt. It would be. And how much would that cost? 100 quid Messi shirt. You know, let's say 50,000 of them. Do me maths. Is that 5 million straight away?
Yeah, sure. PSG match shirts 155.
Yeah. Well, that's. But even if they're left at 100, you'd still sell.
Massively.
Globally, you'd sell at least 500,000 of them. That pays your salary. Does it not? You know what I mean? So you have to take all these things into consideration.
If you remember when Roma did that, they signed that Japanese lad in the 90s, didn't they? Kata. And his shirt sales in Japan paid for his transfer. And that's how mad it can be. There's no doubt in my mind PIF would love a Newcastle United player front and centre in the World Cup in Qatar.
Definitely.
Representing, I remain convinced our shirt sponsor for next season will be something connected to Saudi tourism for sure.
And who's the ambassador? Let's get him playing for exactly, it's a way of paying his salary, isn't it? It's a way of paying his salary. Sign for them and we'll pay you as an ambassador for this. It's not as far-fetched forward thinking.
You might think. This is the thing. It's not as far-fetched as you might think. And so it's going to be an unexpected summer, I think. I think we're going to have some surprises along the way. And
just to clarify, Mitch, we're not saying Messi's signing before people get all excited. No. We're explaining the possibility of how it could.
We're explaining the possibility.
I've just ordered me fucking shirt, lads.
You've done what? Unloaded what?
I've just ordered me shirt.
Right, okay. Thought you had unloaded something there.
That leads, I suppose, slightly into my question, which was, do you think that there will be a bit of a change of ploy from the Saudis, given the fact that City have signed Erling Haaland now, and that City with him, if you look at the game, okay, we played probably one of the best, City, one of the best teams in the world on Sunday, and I think the 5-0 wasn't really reflective of the match, the 2 late goals and everything else. But obviously they get a player like Haaland. The performance from De Bruyne on Sunday, I thought, was outstanding. The guy's just a total baller. But you get then somebody like Erling Haaland that comes in that, and does that allow City to dominate the league for another 2-3 seasons? Does that, you two guys are out in the Gulf. Do you think that changes PIF or the consortium's kind of, okay, well, look, maybe we wanted to do this in 2-3 years, but we don't want City to dominate for as long as that, and they're going out, spending another 70 million plus 400 grand a week for Haaland. Does that change the dynamics at all, Mitch and Stu, do you think?
It could. I think that the trouble we've got is that the top 6 have pulled the drawbridge up a little bit with coming to agreements on these new rules about sponsorship, etc. They've reaped the benefits of certain things for years, and now they're trying to stop effectively us. Let's be honest, it's not aimed at anybody else, is it? From reaping the benefit of that under FFP. But within what they can do, it might change the outlook, because as Stu would tell you, out here in the Middle East, it is a territorial pissing competition. My car's faster than your car, my tower's taller than your tower. I've got more Guinness World Records. They're obsessed with Guinness World Records out here. It's ridiculous. It's bring back Roy Castle sometimes out here. And so there is a bit of that goes on over here. Even down to what we touched on when I spoke to you last about hearing things like that there might be some interesting sponsorship opportunities from Dubai towards Newcastle United rather than towards Abu Dhabi, who are in the same country is the potential sponsors from Dubai, because there's internal politics which mean that people want to jump on what they perceive is going to be the winning horse at times out here, and so it might change attitudes. I don't know what you think, Stu, but I think City were always going to spend in the summer, so and we have no control over that. So you would have thought it's something that they probably already thought about.
Yeah, I think for the last few years, we've all, well, especially since Aguero got injured, we all knew the final missing piece of their jigsaw was a centre forward, and whether it was Guardiola's ego or just trying to break the mold, seeing that he's been very successful with what he's done. But I think a finisher, I think he realised that. That's why he was after Kane for so long last season. But Haaland's now fits the bill perfectly. So they will take some catching next season, and that will go noticed. It won't go unnoticed. It will go noticed here. Because as you rightly said, it it is a competition. If it has to be the biggest, best, fastest first, and they don't mind spending money on it because there's a huge amount of national pride, and I've noticed that even more so now living in Bahrain for the last couple of 3 years, and as you know, I work with really wealthy Saudis every single day, and the pride they've got in their country, it's something that puts us to shame, to be honest. But if you're talking about Liverpool and Manchester City, they are what we aspire to be. And again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the owners. This is, again, my opinion. The owners haven't bought us to do anything but be as successful as possible. And the only way we can be as successful as possible is catch these teams and surpass them. And we can't do that by saying, okay, we'll only spend 2 or 3 players in this summer. And while Man City are buying the Haalands and stuff like that, because the gap just gets even bigger. So this is why, that's my justification of why I think this will be a summer of transition, keeping the core, which is important to welcome people into the club and stuff. But I think there will be big spending this summer now to elevate us, because it's an ideal opportunity. Who knows what's going to happen to Chelsea? You know, are they going to be, because there's no way they can survive. No club, no owner can give what Abramovich did to them. So there's going to be a huge leveling out there. So the salaries that they were given, the transfer fees they were paying, the sacking the manager every year and giving £20 million, that's going to have to stop. So they're not going to advance. You know, they'll stand still, and we all quite know if you stand still, you go backwards. Tottenham, does Kane really want to be there now? Even if they get fourth, you know, I mean, if he stays loyal, then fair enough. Shearer did it, you know. But does he want to stay there, or does he want to have the silverware? But there's so much rumours that Conte has been linked with PSG as well, isn't it? You know, so they might not even know who the manager is, and we know how much debt they've got. So they can't keep throwing money at it. Arsenal, I think, have overachieved this season with the squad they've got, and I don't think their manager Arteta has had as much credit as he's deserved, because like at Man United, they just get compared to Wenger or Ferguson, and it hasn't been fair. But he's been ballsy enough to say, look, I'm going to do this my way, and he's made big calls that some have backfired. But you know, he's got a young squad there, but they're not battle hardened, I suppose. You know, with the experience. So if we can invest wisely and quickly, we can catch them. That's key. We're not doing it Everton spending money for the sake of it, or a Man United and spending money for the sake of it. With Eddie Howe's team and with agreement with the owners, these are the areas we need to target. Go and get us the best players possible. Then let's look at the people who are willing to come. Let's look at their attitude, etc., etc. They're not prima donnas. They're willing to roll their sleeves up. There's no reason why we can't get top 6 next season if we spend enough quality. And I say 3, 4, 5 maximum quality players into that squad. So it knocks down. So your people who are your regular starters become your substitutes. Your substitutes become your squad players. Because remember, next year there's a 9 on the bench allowed and 5 substitutes.
9 and 5, yeah.
Right. So you really want to be. Most teams won't use the 5 anyway. It'll just be for time wasting, which is going to be detrimental to the game. Again, my opinion. But the ones that have been crying out for it never use the substitutes anyway. Man City very rarely make 3 subs. But if they're winning 1-0 with 2 minutes to go in the Champions League semi-final again, he'll be using 5 subs. So, you know, so it's there to benefit those with the bigger squads and with the better quality, and that's what we need to get as quick as possible. Man United, who knows what's going to happen with them? You know, where I think the whole footballing world, apart from them, want them to struggle. Could this Ten Hag come in and make them brilliant? You never know. You know, so but there's a cancer in there that needs ripping out. You know, there's a culture there that's not good. Whether that be Ronaldo's fault, whether that be Fernandez's fault, whether that be Pogba's fault, there's that many egos. Varane's come there. I've won this. I've won that. And then you've got like Maguire's, but look at the money they've spent on these players. You know, they've turned Jadon Sancho into a world beater. And there's someone who's struggling to beat eggs. And you know, it's crazy what and that's only with bad management. And they never thought they'd say they've missed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So they're a team that we could catch and match and get up there. You know, already I think with the full season, if we're in the same area as Leicester, the Aston Villas, West Hams, who are overachieving and fantastic and fair play to them. But if Declan Rice leaves, that's going to set their fans off. Well, we're selling our best players again, etc., etc. So this coming season, is a great opportunity to get a springboard faster than what most of us anticipate. And then after that, once you've got a really good 11 and 4 or 5 quality subs, what happens now? You just need to buy 1 or 2 every window, don't you? And there's your financial fair play, and people want to come to us. It's the quality that'll want to come to us.
Yeah. So
that was just my opinion on that.
I think the thing, just to cover the Man United piece, the managers in and out, and obviously, you know, won't get into depth of it. I still think a huge part of the problem is Alex Ferguson still being around that club. I think he has still a huge influence behind the scenes. And I think, okay, David Moyes is a good manager and West Ham probably are overachieving, but he's shown what you can do with a half-decent budget, some good buys and a decent season. Last 2 seasons have done really well. But every other manager that's come in, from Mourinho to him, even, Ollie had the season he did and kind of, struggled into the second and the third. The ones they've got now, I just think if you're a manager in that club and you're walking around and Ferguson is drifting in and out of rooms, you must look at it and go, what the fuck do I need to do here to be able to be my own man? And I think they'll continue to struggle, any manager they bring in, until that fella's not around the club. And I get everything he's done for it, but move on,
No, the Ferguson thing is true, but I don't think it's totally responsible, because Dalglish has got a similar sort of aura at Liverpool.
I'm not saying it's fully responsible, Stu. I'm just saying it must have an influence somewhere in amongst.
I think that a lot of it is self-inflicted. A lot of it's self-inflicted with self-entitlement, how they should be winning everything. And anyone who can read history books tells you football goes in cycles, or it has done. Maybe now money will talk if it's spent wisely. But when Liverpool were dominating, in the 80s and 90s, they had a slump. They went about it the right way. They didn't start crying, "Oh, we should be winning this, we should be winning that." They've dusted themselves down and regrouped and restructured, and they've grown to be where they are. Yeah. Man United need to do the same, but their ego won't let them, because they believe they should be winning the league every year. In my opinion.
Yeah, no, agreed. Dazzler, next question.
Well, I go back to the. Do you want to stick on that topic for? Sure, we can always go back to it again. But
I was going to go back to ASM for a bit of contention, and just get my view on it. And then we can maybe talk over it. ASM. So my piece very, very quickly is: there's loads of people in the chat. Pete's an advocate of ASM. I'm not so much of an advocate of ASM, and my reasons are: it just hasn't produced it consistently enough for me. There's something that doesn't fit, and I'm of the opinion now. Some people are going, let's just do it for one more season. See, can he improve? He's had 3 seasons. And yes, okay, in spurts, he's probably dug us out of a hole or got a goal that we needed when we needed it, but far too inconsistent for me. So I'm just not convinced he's the player that, as a luxury at the minute with the way he's playing, is somebody we can afford to keep running with and try and fit a team around him. So I'd just be interested to know, Pete, look, let's go to you. You are an advocate of ASM, but he has struggled and things haven't been great with him. So is it a Maxi problem? Is it a team problem? If Eddie Howe can't get it out of him in another season, do we jettison him? Where does it go?
Yeah, look, if my internet's playing up massively, so I might
if you
die horrible death halfway through my conversation.
We've chatted loads about ASM the last few weeks, and we both have different opinions, but we do agree on some things. But do we continue with him?
I agree that he's got a shelf life, and I agree that if things don't improve, he will be sold. That's just my opinion. And I know you've said something similar, Mark, in your opinion as well. I think there is still a player in ASM at Newcastle United. I think at the moment, this moment in time, he's hurting because he's not the main man. You see how much Bruno's being lauded and how much he's loved by the Geordie faithful. They're not chanting ASM every game all the time like he was. And look, ASM's got a little bit of an ego. Some of the best players have got egos. And that's just the reality. And I think he's hurt a little bit at the moment, not with the fans, but because he's not the main man. I think he's trying a little bit too hard at the moment to be the main man, to show people that he's still there and he's still good enough. I think there's still ability there. I've talked about this so many times over the last year. ASM needs to play on the right-hand side, in my opinion. He's not a left-side inside forward. That's not his game. You looked at the cross that he put in for Wood against Man City. You looked at how more effective he was when Wilson came on the pitch and he played his balls down the right-hand side. He is more of an effective midfielder playing on the right-hand side. And he's proved it, not just this season, but when he's had good moments in previous seasons. But I'll go back to your point. You know, we're talking about ASM as not doing the business and not playing well. ASM has played more 90 minutes this season than any other. ASM's record in terms of goals and assists combined is better than any previous season. So he could argue that he's making progress, that he's getting better. We don't see it that way because we're now looking at the big fishes like Stew and Mitch have talked about. We're looking big right now. And we're looking beyond ASM. So I think that's maybe clouding the fans' judgment a little bit about ASM. We're very quick to discard him now because we know we've got money and we know we can go in and replace him. But I still think there's a player in ASM that we can mould and we can build. And the key to it all is that regardless of this article, regardless of what ASM said in French media, in my opinion, I don't think Eddie Howe cares. Because if Eddie Howe cares, right? If Eddie Howe cared anything about that, he would have made a point of finding him or dropping him against Man City. For me, I think Eddie Howe loves him. You look at all of his press conferences, the way he talks and he lauds about ASM more than any other. I think he really likes him, and I think he feels that ASM's got a place in this team moving forward. And I think Eddie Howe's going to do whatever he possibly can to make Allan Saint-Maximin work for Newcastle United. Because I think if he didn't care, I think he would have been already out of the team by now.
Pete, do you not think there's a chance he's been fined and it's just not been made public?
Quite possibly. But we could only go on what we know. It's certainly for the wider fan base. And at this moment
because
in time,
I think Howe strikes me as somebody who doesn't like to do his dirty laundry in public. And I think the disciplinarian side of him, I think, likes to do things behind closed doors and it doesn't necessarily get out. My opinion on ASM is forever tainted by information and knowledge I have about his behaviours off the pitch in certain circumstances that I can't divulge because it would give away where it's come from and who's most likely given it. And therefore, I can't get over, for all he's a great player and I love seeing him on the ball, I've said that many times, he's all about himself. He's all about himself. He's I. And whereas I think some of the great players have that in them. Is he a great player? Has he done enough to deserve that status? And I don't think that's the case. It's all very well doing multiple step overs when you're on the ball against Crystal Palace and there's nobody near you. And that'll look great on your TikTok. That'll look fantastic on your social media. And I think he's got a social media team and he's using them hard at the moment. And I think he's playing a very canny and astute game with that. And I think that's keeping a lot of the fans on board. But believe you me, if some people had heard some of the tales I've heard, I'm quite sure their opinions would change to an extent. That this is someone who makes selfish and rash decisions at times away from the game, and therefore you see some of those rash decisions that he makes on the pitch come out as well. And that's what taints it for me. I struggle to have too many positive conversations. Yet, at the same time, I know people who've interacted with him who cannot say a bad word against him, who love his company, who think he's a lovely lad. He has done stuff for the food bank off his own bat. All those kind of things, which are fantastic. He's a really complex individual and needs handled in a certain way to get the best out of him. And I think going forward, we've got some big decisions to make with him.
Should we hold it against him though? Like, you talked about some of the decisions that he's made, in the background. We don't know about this stuff. I certainly don't. You're more privy to that, Mitch, with regards to some of the things that he's done. But, should we necessarily hold that against him? It's interesting, actually. There were some quotes I saw on Twitter earlier, as you're sort of building up to the show. And it talked about ASM talking about, in another interview, about how Eddie Howe has got the players to stand up and talk about their past and talk about their history and talk about where they've come from and their backgrounds and all the rest of it. And he was talking about how he was really surprised how some people have managed to get to where they've got to, so some of the difficulties and various other things. And it's really fascinating words that he was saying and things you don't really associate with footballers. And this is, again, massive praise to Eddie Howe. But, we talk about ASM being like an ego and making some of these rash decisions, but do we know the background of ASM? Do we know what he's had to come up with?
Look, you could say that about a lot of players, Pete. When I was on last time, I went on about one of my favourite topics: the lack of pastoral care in football for young men who are given a lot of money and are set free with it. And some of them are going to make some stupid decisions and do some stupid things with it. What people were talking about, Rolando Aarons being in the team that last one at Man City, and then probably within a fortnight he was in Tuck Palace battering somebody over the head with a champagne bottle, And so it's of course this happens, and some of these things you can't hold against him. But if, for example, he's told absolutely no, you're not to do something, and he goes and does it anyway, and doesn't care about the effect that could have on the team and the squad going forward, that's a problem. And if he does it a second time and he hasn't learned from the first time, that's a bigger problem. And so it's these kind of things that frustrate me with him immensely. A mate of mine over here helped to run an event for his card game or whatever it is that he has on the go to promote the Helios, to promote that over here. And the lads that spent some time with him said what a lovely evening it was, what a great lad he was. But around that time he was far more interested in promoting his game and everything that goes with it. No, surprise, there's an NFT range you can now buy from them and chuck your money away with and things like that, was far more interested in talking about that than he was talking about Newcastle United, and that's from two Geordies who love him to bits. And so, he's a complex character for sure, and certainly needs handled in a certain way.
Okay, so you've said about the club, or about ASM making one mistake and then making it again, and maybe even again. Should we be pointing the finger maybe at the club for not doing something more drastic if he keeps making those same mistakes? I imagine other clubs would do the same. Under Ashley, it's maybe slightly different, and Ashley just probably let him get on with things and let him go to his own devices. But certainly, if these mistakes have been made under the new regime and under Eddie Howe, shouldn't there be question marks about why things have not been kind of stamped down quicker to emphasise a point, not just to ASM, but the rest of the squad, as if to say this is not acceptable? But equally, and I talked about Eddie Howe's, in my opinion, his love for ASM and how I think he really likes him. Do you also think that maybe Eddie Howe wants to be the one to kind of put an arm around him and maybe do some work and nurture him to stop making these mistakes?
I think Eddie Howe's done a hell of a lot more work with him in a short period of time than somebody like Steve Bruce ever did.
Yeah.
I'll give you my take on Saint-Maximin, because I've been critical of him over the last few months, most of the season, to be fair. So it's not just post-takeover. And it could be a bit of a, and I will defend him as well, it could be a bit of a big fish, small pond scenario. And it is, but I think with me and the people of my era, Shelby's been criticised in the past. Joelton's been criticised in the past heavily. But what won the fan base over is the effort they put in. And you've seen games where the game's finished and Shelby's lying on his back. He's took his socks off, there's steam coming off his feet, and he's given his all. You see ASM lying on his back when someone coughs near him or someone opens a packet of crisps in the stand. And I understand that's part of his makeup, and I understand that's, if he's delivering. Now, would you have prime Ben Arthur? Would you have prime Robert, prime Ginola? Every one of them French, enigmatic. Every one of them would be in the team in front of him, in my opinion. That doesn't make him a bad player. Now, this is where I'll defend him. Because he's put in some fantastic performances since he arrived, and he stood out because we had the squad that Mitch is talking about that has never been managed properly. He stood out like a beacon, and he was exciting, and he still is. Even now, even on Sunday when I was watching the game, any time on the ball, I was up, go on, Maxie, go on, son. You just want him to do well, you know, and that's it. He's a supporter, but when you see him like with his Keith Lemon wristbands on and throwing himself over and like then he starts limping around like he's got a stone in his shoe, and like, don't do it. You get told at school from a young age, if you let the, like I played on the left, if you let the right back know that he's hurt you, he's going to keep doing it. You get up and say, is that your best, my friend? And then make him next time, make a fool of him. But it seems to be like the Allan Saint-Maximin show, you know. So what he's done in those 2 years prior to the season, he set the bar high and he hasn't maintained it. Now, this is where I will really defend him. I was fortunate enough to watch young Paul Gascoigne. I was standing in terraces with watching a young Paul Gascoigne make his way into the football world, and he set the bar high. Yes, he was consistently better than, and will always be consistently better than what Saint-Maximin can be. But when he had a bad game, he could get a 6 out of 10 game. And it was, oh, Gaza, you useless fat shite and stuff like that. Because we wanted him, we know he's an 8 or 9 out of 10. You know, so he could be a victim of his own mini success in Newcastle. It could be the fact that his head's been turned elsewhere. And I'll tell you something, someone else who was on that pitch, who didn't have as good a game as Saint-Maximin did on Sunday. And for me, it has not been talked about enough in the national media, is £100 million man Jack Grealish, who doesn't get an important role to play at Man City. He play the cup games. He play the games where they know they're going to win, like they knew they were going to beat us. And he still doesn't do anything. He's to me what you call the ultimate big fish, small pond. And he's went into the big pond and he's starstruck, or he's just realised his own limitations. And I think he'll be phased out at Manchester City. So with ASM, I'll ask you this last question. Who would buy him? Which club would realistically pay 40, 50, 60 million pounds for him? Because they could have got 60 million from the summer and there would have been uproar. So is he worth that money now as he was being touted last summer? Which club would pay 60 million for him now?
Not many, I don't think, and I don't think he's worth that either. Stu, at the minute.
Oh, so find one and snap the hands off, because that money can go elsewhere. But that's not to say he's a bad player, because he's not. He's a fantastic talent. But anyhow, is quite clearly building a team with a team ethic, a team spirit, a work rate, where everyone's going to fight for each other. And he either fits in or fucks off, for want of a better phrase. And it seems to be that he's resisted it. Now, anyhow, has anyone heard him criticise any player at Newcastle since he's come here?
No.
That's why Mitch says he doesn't want to do his dirty laundry in public. He'll do it behind closed doors, and he will be a taskmaster. But if he's looking to move someone on, he let someone go at the weekend, didn't he? Where there's players I love, I might have to move on for the greater good and stuff like that. But if he's not going to turn and say, oh yeah, he's a pain in the arse about any player, or he's a nightmare to manage, he never turns in on time, this, that, and the other, who's going to sign that player? He's going to tell them they're a great, fantastic player, because he needs the best out of them now for his own benefit. So ASM, if he stays, it's because he's capable. Well, we know he's capable. He will consistently produce. But I said this, 3-4 months ago now, Mitch, that I think that he won't be in the Newcastle squad at the start of next season, and I was lambasted for it. But I still stand by it.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm wrong, because that means he's good.
But I think there's a few things.
I think he's going to stay.
I think he will stay, but I think there's a few things that will come off the back of that, Daz, which is whether the comments were interpreted or not interpreted rightly or wrongly. If it's the fact that we do go out and we add 5-6 players of better quality than we currently have, and ASM plays in that squad and doesn't produce, then that whatever comment he made about if I had better players, I'd be getting more assists and everything else. If it doesn't come off, then it's going to come back to slap him. And if he doesn't produce, he's only got next season in my book. So
Martin, to get assists, you need to cross the ball. Yes, you need to pass the ball. You did one cross, one pass on Sunday,
But
when was the last game he did that? Everton at home.
What I said, Stu, was if you and I made the example I think the other week when we were on the show, and I said if you want to look at a winger that could consistently deliver, that didn't have to do the step overs and all the shite, but could ping a ball in and stick it on a head, was Keith Gillespie. He didn't have to beat the final defender. He didn't have to try and cut in or run through the middle. He got that extra couple of yards and he could ping a ball in and around the defender and put it on, as he did for Tino 3 times. So you don't have to do that. So ASM, it's just that final third for me. Stop fucking around in the final third and play a decent ball. Get your head up and look. I think if you did that, I think he'd get a hell of a lot more, and we'd probably score more goals. You can't always criticise Chris Wood. Okay, the one against City, look, he's a striker, should have fucking buried it. Simple as. But he's not getting the service. Chris Wood won't score your goals running through the middle of your pitch with a through ball because he doesn't have that. He's an aerial beast. So we've got to play to the striker's strengths. Different with Wilson. You'll see a different style of play. But, I just think this is the final season for me. Add the additions, do it through. But if he's not cutting it through next season, I think we need to cut the cloth and we need to move on for the betterment of the team. Because I don't think he does us any favours. That's me.
I think we'll all agree to get rid of him next season if he doesn't cut it next season, because he will have better players to play with. So it's a make or break season for him. I think I said it before. For me, Miggy's was this season, and apart from that one goal, it hasn't really worked out. And a few bit of highlights.
Yep. Agreed.
Martin, you're right. What you've just said, he needs to produce more, and it goes back to the point is he tends to produce better balls and better crosses when he's on the right hand side because he has to. He can't do that cutting in the side shit because he's not going to cut in on his left foot because it's his weaker foot. So what he has to do is go down the right hand side. You look at the goal against West Ham, first game of the season. He left Rice for dead, turned him inside out, whipped that ball in. Wilson heads the ball, he scores. He did it a couple of times last season as well, playing on the right-hand side. He in moments against Man City, he had the ball in for Wood. He put a really decent ball in that I think Wilson just went a little bit too early, missed it in the second half. And he looks more dangerous down the right-hand side. Why? Yeah. Because it simplifies his game. We don't want him cutting in on his right-hand side and ballooning balls into the Gallagher or trickling them into Schmeichel like he did against Leicester. What you want is more consistency. Exactly what you're saying, Mark. And that's why we go back to the point. One more year. He has better players around him. If he doesn't produce, it's on him. He's either on the bench or he leaves. It's as simple as that. But
I think if you look at a winger, Pete, I think you're 100% right. And I think if you want to look at a winger that had to change his game slightly to fit in around the team, is Mahrez at Man City. He's changed his game up. Okay, he still does that piece where he cuts in. The difference is he cuts in from that left or right and he puts the ball in the bottom of the net.
20 goals a season.
Yeah, exactly. And when he doesn't, he makes a decent pass because he gets the head up, he looks and he sees it. And I just want, listen, I agree with everyone. There's a player there, but I want that final third and that end piece because we're not getting that. What are we doing with it? But anyway, moving on. Daz, what else?
Well, Richie, we'll go to you and some questions first because there'll be too many at the end, and let's get a few now while we're on the roll.
Yeah, I'll start off with David Cook at the start. He's just turning around. He wants to know basically about what the lads' thoughts are of Shelby being in Disneyland at the weekend. Should he really be taking like a lesson off, say, Trippier and being in and around the squad still when they've, for match days and stuff like that?
If he's injured and he's been given permission to go, wouldn't bother me.
It depends on the circumstances, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Each to their own. And I think from the rumblings from the weekend, as he's done for the season, it's an injury that's finished his season. So, go and enjoy some time with your family. And I think that to me is what's happened. He's just been given permission to go and enjoy some time with his family. And so, yeah, I get what they're saying. It was a great look to see Trippier, while he's recovering, being around the squad and being involved. Probably says a lot more about the future of the two players going forward in the squad, possibly even. But I know Shelby's stated he wants to stay, etc. But I think Trippier has invested in the squad in very many other ways going forward, in ways Shelby would never be as a person.
You know what?
I think
Trippier's
a captain in waiting as well. I think.
Yeah, Trippier will be captain next season without a doubt. But I think with Shelby, he fits in the category that Mitch said about Dummett. I wouldn't have him in the start 11, but if you drop him in for the odd game when needed, you wouldn't complain.
No.
Yeah.
Aye.
I think Shelby's been all right. I've enjoyed watching his performance this season, and I've been critical of him before. He hasn't got the legs to read up, but he can play. He can play that decent ball. He can do all of that. So
we missed him on Sunday.
We did miss him.
Oh, definitely agree.
He's one of those players that can frustrate because we know how good he is on the ball, but equally, he's one of those players that we miss when he's not there, and it's been well documented before. Is that his control and his ability to keep the ball ticking over, and his use of the ball and his decision making on the ball is key to our transitions moving forward up the pitch. We've got Bruno that can do that, but it's even better if we have Bruno and Shelby doing that. The one thing I like about, from my perspective, with John Joe Shelby is that we have to forget, or sometimes we forget, should I say, is that Kieran Trippier is the anomaly here. Kieran Trippier breaking his foot and turning up to every game in his boot, in his crutches, is not what players do. It's not the norm. That's why it was such an amazing thing to see Trippier going and joining in with the squad and being in the dugout and giving those instructions. That is not what players do. If you go down the history of any club, you don't get many players actually do that when they've got bad injuries. What they do, they stay home or they'll be in the stands at the most. So, John, any other player that's been injured and not being there has been met with, it's not. Why are they not doing what Trippier is doing? It's because it's not normally happen. It doesn't normally happen, and I think we forget that sometimes. I think we forget how amazing that was what Trippier did, in how supportive that was to the team. We forget that sometimes, and we think that's the norm, but it's not, and that's just something we need to remember.
I think it's easy to find the negative in anything, any walk of life, but it's finding the positives, and Trippier certainly has been. He might not have influenced the end of the season on the pitch, but he certainly has off the pitch. You know, and for me, he's someone that's anyhow doesn't have to point to. The players in the training ground will see him doing that and thinking, I can see why he brought him in. This is a type of player that's coming. I need to up my game. I need to look at myself, and I need to improve myself. And for that alone, he's been worth the signing because he put some cracking crosses in himself on Sunday, didn't he?
He did,
but he also got turned for the last goal, but no one wants to mention that because Trippier's such a hero at the moment. You know, he messed up, he got turned out, but he's not going to win every challenge. He's not going to complete every cross. You know, he's not superhuman. Yeah. But we have to. The fact is, you know, he'll try, and I wouldn't bet on someone skinned up like that again if he played well. So I would say I'll probably see when he plays on Monday.
Rich, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I thought we were going on to the next question. That was all. But what I'll do is I'll move on to Mike's question next, and he's put two in there. But I think we're going to come on to the first one a bit in the second half of the show. But obviously, I know Mitch actually brought us up a little bit, but he wants any updates regarding commercial deals and sponsorships with the club. Obviously, I know you mentioned you thought you might have something like the Saudi tourism side of things. You know, it could be something like Saudi Airlines or something like that. Have you actually heard any names itself?
I know there was a big meeting at the club. After which game was it, Stu?
Let's think. I'll get back. It was
after one of the recent home games.
I believe it wasn't the Wolves. It was the game of. I think it might have been Brighton.
Was it?
Yeah.
I think it might be the Brighton game.
There was a meeting where a lot of potential sponsors were there, and sponsorship was discussed with the chairman and the board.
That also happened at the Wolves game. Was guests invited, wasn't it?
Yes, there was lots of invited guests, and some of whom I believe were from that. This is where my contacts in Dubai was saying that there was somebody there from one of the big retail groups here in Dubai talking about managing some of the commercial deals from this region, which was an interesting concept. So there's certainly a lot of progress being made. I get the feeling it's all going to be dropped in one. Boom. Here's the kit. Here's the shirt. Here's the sleeve. Here's the training kit. This is the ground sponsorship. I personally think it's all just going to be dropped in one package. Boom, there it all is. Yeah.
The two things in Saudi at the minute, Mitch, as you know, is the big drive for tourism. And Saudi itself has so much potential for tourism. One main reason is Mecca. It's the home for Islam, for Muslims. And there's 2 billion in the world. 2 billion people have it in their life to visit there at least once. Now, whether they're financially capable or not, but it's becoming a lot more open now. Even when I flew there, was it in the end of March? I went to Saudi before I went back to the UK. They just, British passport, are you here as a tourist? No, I'm here on business. Can I see your visa? In you go. There's no, it's a lot more open. The changes in Riyadh over the last 9 years is phenomenal. It really is. It's unbelievable how much progression has been made. And if you compare it to what we classify as being the Western world, they've done in less than a decade what's taken us more than a century. And as I said, Mitch will tell you, it's very, very safe living here. Everyone's welcome as long as they play by the rules. So I think that the two sponsors on Saudi tourism is getting a big push, and the other well-known one would, in my opinion, would be Aramco. But would anyone be really against having the East Stand named on a 3 or 5 year deal, as long as the money was put into the team as the Aramco stand? Would it still be the East Stand or the Old Stand, the New Stand, depending on how old you are? But just call it the Aramco stand. And if we all know that, then you can have Saudi or Neom, which is the super city that they're building, on your shirt. You can have someone else sponsoring the new training ground. There's so many ways that you can generate money quickly where we will benefit, and it's not coming from the owners. That's the potential that we've got.
Mm. There you go. Yeah, cool. Daz, do you want to go on to the second part of Mike's question, which we touched on in the loaded question at the start, regards any update on CEO and sporting director?
Sure, yeah, why not? So that's the last part of this question here, because I know Stu gave his prediction, trying to target the top 6. But yeah, we can revert back to a couple ones and stuff again. But yeah, so CEO and sporting director, what's their initial objectives when they get into place?
Well, Dan Ashwell for me is going to set a DNA for the entire club. We've got to look top to bottom how this club wants to act, how it wants to develop players, the systems that we're using, and the systems that we play should be aligned with the first team, from the youngest age group to the top age group, in very different, in as many ways as possible, rather. So then you can allow proper progression through the age groups, and then from the under 18s to the 23s to the first team. That was his remit at England. He turned England upside down, root and branch. And I've got no doubt he's going to be able to do that at our club. I think he'll come in over the summer. My understanding is the compensation drops to something like 2 million at the end of the season, and that's a pay the money. That for me is a pay the money amount. Just get him in once the season's done. With CEO, I know they've done one round of interviews and sent thanks but no thanks to a number of candidates. I know they're interviewing inside and outside of football. And I think for me, the biggest remit of the CEO is going to be on the commercial and the development of the commercial side. How do we grow the fan base globally? How do we find new income streams, different income streams? How do we think outside of the box to attract more people to Newcastle United? How do you integrate that with the foundation and the women's team and all of those things, whereby there's potential to unify the club, but also expand the club globally and find interesting ways to get around the new rules about, associated sponsorships and the new FFP stuff that's coming in, and all the things which is basically the top six pulling the drawbridge up when they've had the benefit of it for years, all aimed at stopping us. And so it needs to be somebody who's pretty much a shrewd operator who can help find those little loopholes and the little seams you can run in. And that doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who comes from within football. In fact, sometimes somebody from outside of the game might see things that people inside football would miss. So I think we've got to be very open-minded as to whoever is appointed and let them just get on with their job and trust the process.
Mitch, are you of the opinion that I am, that this short-term revamp of the training ground, it needed to be done? We've been the butt of jokes for years now with the ice bath, so that need to be done. It need to show it's not just a lick of paint. It's, they are quite extensive, but that's something that can be done during the summer and be ready for the pre-season. But they haven't went full gung-ho with, we're going to develop here, we're going to build this super, like that, as Leicester have, Pete, near you. They've got an amazing training facility.
It's amazing.
As have Spurs. They've got fantastic, but to me, they can't announce that, even if the plans are already in place, until Dan Ashworth's in place, because that's his baby. And it has to be him saying, I want this to happen. And then very quickly, okay, Dan, we're going to back you. We'll give you a blank canvas because you tried and tested, and we have waited for you. We're going to back you. And I'm sure he's sat and had meals or sent a text or this, that, asked questions, without it being too or in breach of any rules. But there's no way they can announce a fantastic new spanking training ground without the director of football there, who will be the one who will be deciding how it should be built, what should be inside it, who does it cater for? Is it men and women together? Is it all the age groups together? Or does he want somewhere private? He will have the final say and stuff like that. He will have the final say and stuff like that. And until he's in place, we all know he's coming, but until he's in place, they can't do anything like that. So this is a short-term fix, and I think it shows initiative.
Yeah, another thing I was reading today, just on the, I suppose there's another role for the CEO when they come in, and it's a bit further down the road, but it's it was in the Chronicle, and I think the developer of the Spurs Stadium, I think Christopher Lee. So he's saying that St James's Park it could get converted into a 65,000 seater stadium. So that's something that should be on the agenda as well.
It's something you could look at. We need to be making. They pretty much come out and said they don't really have any initial intention to move from St James's Park. So we've got a choice to make. Do we accept we've got what we've got, and that's the capacity, and we don't do anything with it? Because it has been shown that what you can do with the Gallagher is add maybe another 68,000 seats, but it's not actually worth it in terms of the cost to develop it and what you get back. Your return on the investment takes so long to recoup it. It's just not worth it. As a goodwill gesture, that's the kind of thing Saudi could do, because they've got the money to do it. They've got the cash to do it and say, okay, it doesn't matter how long it takes for that to come back. We'll suck that one up. They could look at another option of development. I know a patient and friend of mine who's an architect has done a few different things and looked at a few different things. And the most recent one was relocating the pitch about 20 metres up to the top right-hand corner if you're looking from the east stand, and then increasing the pitch on the stands to get up to something like 73,000, possibly more. And with redevelopment of other parts of the ground to add things in as well, such as housing and F&B and the kind of things that would turn a venue into a 24/7, 365 place. Because that's what, if you look at most of the new grounds that are being built around the world, they're being built with associated malls F&B, housing and residential, so that true 365 money makers. They're not just there on match day making money. There's a lot of other things you could do at St James's Park to generate income by improving the hospitality in all areas and by improving the facilities in all areas and making it a more comfortable and welcoming place to be other than a concrete shed serving rubbish beer and shitty pies. There's loads of ways you can do it. It's where they're going to perceive the value is in developing St James's Park. I'm sure it's going to be more than a liquor paint solution. But I think they've got a decision to make about, do they want to increase the capacity or not? Or are they prepared to accept that we've got what we've got for the foreseeable and concentrate on other areas of the infrastructure and concentrate on developing the team? They could of course do all of the above, because again, they've got the money to do it, and what they're sticking to the ground isn't affected by FFP. But it's whether they see they're going to get value out of that. And so, again, it's a case of sit back and enjoy the ride and trust the process for me.
Yeah, exactly. See what happens. Where we go next, lads?
I've got loads of questions. I was just trying to see if you wanted to finish off your loaded question first. That was all, Daz.
Let's get some questions in, Richie, for people in there.
Right, well, Simon, our sponsor from Shy Ben's D, wants to know from Mitch, have you offered your professional dental services to the club as it has been proved that good dental health improves performance in sports people?
Yes, it has been proven. I'm a member of the European Academy of Sports Dentistry, and so it's something I know very well, and I know the data very well. And it's very true. With elite group athletes, if you improve their oral health, that performance improves, and that's an absolute fact. And it's why, for example, in Italy, dental is part of the medical now. And there are players who have not been signed because of their oral health and poor standards of oral health, where clubs turned around and said, well, I'm not spending 40 million euros on him because his gob's a cesspit and he's going to cause real problems. I think we should be looking to integrate in a truly holistic fashion when it comes to the health of professional footballers. And the data that's coming out of certain places at the minute is quite fascinating. My friend Dr. Tanos Stamos, who's a Greek dentist, you wouldn't guess by that name, would you? And he looks after players at Panathinaikos, Olympiakos, and at Tromatos in Athens, and he works closely with the physios there. He's got some fascinating data relating to oral health and injuries. So players with gum disease are more likely to suffer from tendinitis. And players with impacted wisdom teeth are 25% more likely to do a hamstring, would you believe? And so they're looking at the sort of integrating all aspects of health into the development of players, and oral health is in Greece certainly at the minute is something that they're talking about integrating into some of these teams' regimes, and Tanos looks after all three squads and does a lot of work with them. I was lucky enough to speak at a FIFA conference here in Dubai a few years ago, and it was the first one that dentists had been allowed to speak at. And I met some fascinating individuals there. The Algerian team dentist who reckons you mentioned Mahrez before. He reckons he helped cure his calf problems by adjusting his bite. And so there's some really fascinating data out there. If the club wants to pick the phone up, I'd jump at it in a heartbeat, and I'm sure they would love a little bit of sun whilst to get their dental issues sorted out by sending them out here to Dubai, and I'd quite happily do it. So if you're listening, there, Dad, you've got me bloody number. Use it. Yeah.
Follow-up question here, Mitch, and maybe could you sort this lad out, Niall Ranger? Be able to sort him out?
Oh man,
could you have changed? Could you have changed?
You know, when I immediately, when I see a lip tattoo, a double glove. because I'm more likely to have hepatitis. Fact. But that's because most.
Where the hell did you get
Magic. In the internet, Pete. This thing called the internet.
Jesus Christ.
Right, question for Stu from our friend Paul Gallant. He wants to know, what do you think about the super fast sale of Chelsea? Bear in mind we had to wait an age for our takeover.
It's chalk and cheese, isn't it? There's different reasons for it. I think the government have forced the Chelsea sale where they weren't against our sale, the government. And in all honesty, I'm not really that bothered by the Chelsea sale because it's going to be to their detriment, and it's another team we can catch up quick enough for the reasons I gave earlier regarding there's no way they can keep being funded as they were. There's going to be a bit more equality there. And the two teams that we played recently are the two teams we have to model ourselves on and catch as quickly as possible before they get over the hill and far away. The rest, they're all game for taking, I think.
I'd like to jump in and say there's still another 20 days. 20, well, yeah, it's just the 11th year, but it's the 10th for you still. This is another 20 days to go yet, and the sale's not actually been finalised.
Yep.
We've just picked a bidder who's been preferred, and they're starting to sign agreements. There's still lots can go wrong. It's not.
Yeah, but anyone who thought Abramovich didn't want wasn't going to put a twist in it must have rocks in the head. Eh?
It gets deeper than that, Stu.
I know.
Do you think Putin wants that amount of Russian assets just to walk out of the door? There's this twist in this yet to come. I'm convinced of it. Of all the potential bidders, the Bowley one was the only one, and I said it on here a couple of weeks ago, was the only one that made sense. All of the others were just nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Hamilton.
Exactly. I mean, dear me, that was a group of billionaires who seemed desperate to become millionaires in a hurry. It was just going to be a total disaster, you know. And so the Bowley bid was the only one that actually made sense. He did a lot of work with the Supporters Trust, and he's charmed a lot of people associated with the club. He's making some very interesting promises. He's already made a big statement about putting investment into the team. Excuse me.
Didn't make actually do that as well.
How does FFP work again? Can you remind us? Or are they going to fudge that in some way for you as well? I doubt it.
Mitch didn't actually make the similar promises 15 years ago.
All sorts of promises.
How he's going to fund it, and I'm going to do this and that
before. And so anybody saying it's done and dusted, it's not yet. Do I think it'll go through? Yes, I think it will. Do I think there's a twist coming? Aye.
Absolutely.
Aye, I do.
Do you know what, lads? I think it's quite fitting that we've got a very nice show lined up for 2 weeks' time because it could tie in quite nicely with that 20-odd days thing, doesn't it, Mitch?
Aye, it does. Aye. That'd be an interesting show. Aye.
Right, next question. I'll give it to both of you. Alan's actually directed it to Mitch. He wants to know about the UEFA approving the new Champions League rules for the 2024-25 season about going through the back door and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on that, lads?
Well, that was always going to happen. It's UEFA are creating something like a Super League to appease the teams that wanted to break away and form their own league. So there's a little bit of tummy rubbing and a little bit of fluffing going on to keep them happy, and that was always going to happen. I noticed they've also dropped the potential number of games because this is the year that the Swiss-style chess format comes into play for the Champions League as well. And they were going to play 10 games in the group stage, and it's now going to be 8 games. That's going to be also super complicated. It's also designed to weight things in favour of the clubs that regularly play in the Champions League. The so-called big clubs are all weighted in favour. It weights them in favour for television money. It guarantees so many games that will keep the television companies happy because it will guarantee more games of top clubs against top clubs through the group stages. And so that system, which basically is going to be one big league of 36 teams who play 8 games each, and they're not necessarily home and away against the same teams. They're drawn from pots about which teams you can play, and you'll then have to play so many from pot A, so many from pot B, so many from pot C, so many from pot D, so on. They then work out a big league at the end of it, and at the end of it, places 1 to 8 automatically qualify for the round of 16, and places 9 to 24 play off against each other in a one-off playoff game to then go forward to the round of 16. It's used in chess to allow top seeds to have a bad game and still progress to the later stages of the tournament. Well, guess what that means? It means someone like Barcelona can have a bad game and still progress to the later stages of the tournament. That's why they're shifting over to this system. It's going to have fans' heads spinning once it kicks in, because the draw for how you play who, it's not clear how they're going to do that. Let's just say it'll be warming up a few fridges to cool some balls in when that draw's made, I'm sure. And it's going to change how you view the group stage totally, because the group stage is just then one big league, and so it's going to become. It's going to be a significant change in how the Champions League works, and it's going to take a little while, I think, for fans' heads to get around it.
My opinion of that is there's one 4-letter word, Mitch, that you kept using there, and it seems to be overlooked by everyone, and that's fans. And look what happened last season. The fans will tell you that if they're not happy about it, they'll tell you they're not happy about it, and they can try and win it. But the moment they take away sport and fairness, I mean, look at what Rangers have achieved to get to the Europa League final. Incredible, from a nation that's derided as a footballing nation or footballing league anyway. It's incredible. Would that not then be allowed because they shouldn't have beat Borussia Dortmund? They weren't allowed to beat them home and away. You start thinking the fans will then see straight through it, and it's all done for one thing: it's TV revenue. Because that's what's paying the bungs, that's what's paying the big bonuses, that's what's paying the big salaries.
Yeah.
But people start switching off. Guess what? They'll change it back again very, very quickly with the tail between their legs, just like they did with the Super League. So they can have your Swiss-style chess draw, you can have, like your cold balls and fridges and stuff like that. But if it's not understood, and it seems to be unfair, and there's a huge lack of integrity, the normal fan in the street will get sick of it, and that's it. If you can't have Goliath beating David, I mean, look at Cambridge beat us in the FA Cup, and they still bang on 40 odd years later. It was 50 years now about Hereford beating us in the cup. Are these things not allowed anymore? So it's a game of football is about 11 versus 11 plus the subs and everything else to try and weight it in favour of the bigger teams, or sorry, the teams with who've had the benefit of the extra money for the last few years. So understandable they want to keep it. I think anyone in their position would want to keep it, but you can't take away what football is about, and that's anyone should be able to beat anyone if they're in the same league. And at the moment, our league's in danger. They should be welcome in Newcastle, because our league's in danger of becoming like the Scottish League. The Celtic and Rangers. Okay, I'll have Liverpool and Man City for next season. You can have the rest of the 18 teams. Who wants a bet? And then I'll add Bayern Munich into that as well. They'll win their league, and PSG will win their league. This is how one-sided it's becoming. Once something becomes repetitive, it becomes boring, it becomes monotonous. People switch off. TV's not going to get the commercials. They're not going to get the revenue in. Then they have to, what did you want? We got a bit carried away there. April Fool. Let's get back to as we were. Everyone should have a chance of, look at Leicester winning the league. It's these things are what keep the sport great, and they can't take it away from us.
Just to add on that,
it's our sport. It's our sport. Getting to the playoff final.
Sorry, I missed that, Des. I just what you said there.
Look at Sunderland, just reaching the League One playoff final. So Small teams can't do it.
No, honestly, I said this last week. Good luck to them. I know it's a not popular opinion, but good luck to them. 40,000 will go down there. They'll get their annual wash of the fountains, and they might actually win a playoff this time. And if they do, great. They're still in the championship. You know, the easy league that they said it's very easy for us to get out of. They got out of it in the same period of time, just the wrong way. So it'll be a long time before Sunderland are in the same league as us. And even if they do it in 2, 3, 4 years, they won't be on the same levels as us. So it's irrelevant, but it'll be good for the region, and it'll be nice to actually go to the derby games and thrash them, this, that, and the other. But of course, I don't want them to be successful. They're just, I don't know, but you don't want them to become the stage where Mitch has highlighted on, and Steve Hasty on a regular basis. If they continue where they're going and bust. Now, hand on heart, there's an intense rivalry and stuff like that, but do you really imagine no Mackhams to laugh at? You imagine? It's not funny anymore. I know they wish the worst for us, and their hatred is for us is more than ours is for them. That's because we are bigger and we're better, and sometimes we should act bigger and better. And at the moment, they're an irrelevance to us. So let them get the bath, let them pay in the fountains, then washing it, whatever else they do on their jaunt down there, and hopefully they can beat the mighty Wickham, and then they've got some big games next season. Not as big as ours will be.
I was just going to say, just before we move on, you talked about from the perspective that with the Champions League and potentially the Premier League, it might start getting a little bit boring. In terms of the same teams up there, the same team challenging year in, year out. Do you think, obviously, we've had a lot of negativity in the last 8 months. Do you think there'll come a point in the next few years where actually the media will start rallying around Newcastle because we are the new entity. We are the team that's different. We are the team that actually could dismantle not just the top 6, but the top 2 effectively. We could be the next ones. You know, do you think at some point they will start to rally around us and the mood around Newcastle United? You'll still get your Miguel Delaney's and your other guys that will throw their negativity. But do you think in general the media will start rallying around us as we progress up the league?
Pete, if we were in Sunderland's league and the same consortium purchased us, there wouldn't have been as much furore as there is now. It's because the see us as a threat to their team, irrespective of how they try and go about it, you know. So, but I agree wholeheartedly. I mentioned earlier that football goes in cycles, you know, and football did happen before the Premier League. I know a lot of people aren't aware of that. But if we just look at the Premier League era, it was Man United, Arsenal for a long time. One or the other were going to win it. Then it was Man United and Chelsea. One or the other were going to win it, you know. And now it's Liverpool and Man City. But if it stays Liverpool and Man City for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years, it becomes boring. It needs someone to challenge the norm. Yeah. You know, and we are as capable as any and more capable than most of being that team that can take the challenge to them. And everyone likes an underdog. And they say, oh, they've got this, they've got all that money, they've got this, but we're new. And they see how we celebrate wins, you know, never mind winning a cup, you know. And it's excitement. Everyone in this panel just wants to be at Wembley when they win the first trophy in our lifetime, you know. And yeah, I'm sure more success will come, but just to say I've been there and done that, you know, I love Wembley, like how Man City call Wembley Etihad South. I think that's fantastic for them, but they don't fill the ground. You know, Newcastle would never be short of fans for that, and for a fan base of what we've had, the sufferance we went through, and the loyalty that we've shown, and the huge numbers we've shown, it deserves rewarded. And yeah, we've hit the jackpot owners-wise, but we still haven't won anything yet. So I agree, Pete. We should be. I think in time we will be the brand of football that will be played, and I think there'll be excitement. Sort of challenges the norm. And guess what? I don't care if no one likes it. We will.
Yeah, I think. Sorry,
it's us as the fans that'll make the difference.
Yeah,
and I think some are using this time to have a go because they're genuinely frightened of the potential.
Yeah.
The giants being awoken, and
jealousy and
once that subsides, you look at the coverage we got when the takeover was announced, and it was all focused on us, the fans, and the fans' reaction. And I think if we won the League Cup, let's not even say the FA Cup, the League Cup, a competition that few really take seriously now. What would we be like as a fan base if we won the FA Cup? I think Newcastle's productivity would slip to 0 for a fortnight, probably.
The balls wouldn't.
It'd be like October the 7th. It'd be like October the 7th.
Yeah.
And
it would. And I think the media would see that and would report that. That's when the sea change happens. That's when people around the world start to say, good Lord, this is just the beginning. And then I think some of the reporting will change and change significantly.
I think the thing with the team thing, Mitch, I can't remember what show it was, but sometime back, I think it might have been when you were on with us, you made the actual poignant statement, which is the only thing that will take down a big shark is a bigger shark. And that's us. The only thing that is going to eclipse or stop City or put a nail into that coffin or slow it down is somebody with the money to do that. And we're the only team with that money to be able to catch them.
It's how you spend the money, Martin. That's the important part.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it goes back to that statement as well, though, Stu, doesn't it? And Eddie Howe said it a few times. I know we're talking about spending big in the summer, but it's about evolution, not revolution.
Yeah.
So, I think if we get those 5 or 6 and a couple of frees and everything else, you start to build on that and keep moving and moving and moving. And we will.
You don't need to build big after that.
Exactly.
I'm
100%
big transfer window.
100%. I'm 100% sure we will catch City and go past them. I've no doubts with this ownership.
Okay, Mark. I'll throw a question out to you, Mark, but to everybody.
Yeah.
So you've said there's no doubt in your mind we're going to catch City and Liverpool, and I agree with you 100%. We will win the league at some point. We will win trophies at some point. No doubt about it. Now, just coming down from that, we've talked about Man United and their problems, not just on the pitch, but in the back.
Rebuild needed.
We've talked about Chelsea and their problems in the back and how their ownership is not going to be the same as Abramovich. How long do you think it will take for us to be in the position to directly challenge a Man United or a Chelsea? I'm not even putting Arsenal and Tottenham in this because Arsenal and Tottenham are flaky. Yeah. One season they're good, one season
good season, bad season. Yeah.
But in your opinion, how long do you think it will take for us to be able to directly challenge and go toe-to-toe with the likes of Chelsea and Man United?
I think this summer is crucial for that, Pete, because it'll put the marker down. This will show how serious we are. And if it's another Chris Wood signing, another Matty Target, although they've done fantastic jobs, there's a lot of hard work went in and a lot of good money being spent where we'll just be dismissed. So it doesn't have to be the marquee signings we're talking about, but you need statement signings, a statement of intent, not just 1 or 2, bang, bang, bang. These are coming to us now. And as I alluded to earlier, I think 2 or 3 are already in the bag anyway. Yeah. And I think they've watched the mistakes that their predecessors have made and they've learned from them. And think, right, we're not going to be shopping around in the last week of the season. We're going to have our players in early. Chelsea do it very successfully. They get the transfers in very early, get them embedded into the squad, get the pre-season done with them, and they're a team already. They're not like, past it. Who are you? They know what run the person is going to make. They know, when they're not going to, and they've been drilled into by a very good technical manager. But we've got our own very good technical manager. So I really do think this summer is going to be pivotal in our future. And to answer your original question, in a roundabout way, if we get 7th next season and the year after we win the Conference League Cup, imagine the celebrations for the one that Roma's in now. But then would still be laughed at because, you've spent that money, that's all you've won, would still be laughed at. And we wouldn't care less. But guess what? The year after, you get the taste of it, we win something else, then we'll win something else. And that's when the snowball effect starts. It's always the first one. And success breeds success. And we have the best owners on the planet to help us achieve this success. So my answer Domestically, I think within 3 years, I think we can win a league cup or an FA Cup and be serious contenders for top 4 on a regular basis.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 seasons to win a cup. I think they'll go. I agree with Stu. I think this summer will be hugely interesting and exciting at the same time. But I think they will lay down the markers. I think they will want to make an impact. And again, look, you two lads, Stu and Mitch, are a lot closer to the club, and obviously sources and everything else than a lot. For little bits and pieces that I've kind of had 1 or 2 whispers through, odds and sods, but I have heard that the insides of the club want a push for Europe for next season. Now, whether that's true or not, but I've heard that that's come from the Middle East. Now, it could be miles out. Maybe you lads know more. So I'd expect them to lay down a market, and I think we'll have something within 2 seasons. I'd be shocked if we're not.
Well, regarding the Middle East, there's something that we mentioned Messi there. There's some people won't know, and I was showing a photograph of this just. I've got a really, really, really wealthy client who's actually become a friend. My wife's at his house now with his wife. Well, he's holiday home here in Bahrain. He's from Riyadh. He showed me a picture of Neymar with some very influential people, shall we say, without name, wearing a shemag, which is like what people use as kitchen towels when the takeover happened. Wearing a shemag, and that was taken within the last 10 days, I believe. He showed me this last Thursday and said that was taken last week. So there's your time scale. So they would love it, but the Saudi people I know are very respectful. And they're very shrewd, and they won't be taken for mugs. No way or the other. They won't be. If they give respect, they expect respect back, and they want the best. They're prepared. Same as mentioned, vouch for in Dubai. Dubai is built on other nationalities. As I said, you're welcome. Come here, you're welcome. If you're going to benefit our country, you're more than welcome. These are the rules. They'll run the football club like that. If you're going to be beneficial to our football club, or whether it's the CFO, CEO, director of football, centre forward, if you're going to benefit our football club and advance it, we'll pay your salary. We'll pay the going rate, because it leads to the bigger thing. So although they have money, they don't have money by wasting money. They'll spend it, and they'll be very generous with it when they need to be generous with it. But they won't get mugged off, which I think they showed in the transfer window in January. Right? Okay, this is what we offered. Right, we'll go at that. We understand you see us as new and naive. They'll get the right people in to do the right job. They won't try and do it themselves. They'll pay the people to do it. And that's why Mitch is in the top 5 dentists in Dubai and earns too much money. They get the best people for the right job, and they pay them for it. Same as every profession, Mitch, in the Middle East, correct?
Very true.
So they'll run the football club the same way. It's you've no idea how exciting and how capable they are fast tracking it. Why should we have to wait 3, 4, 5 years for a plan?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we'll win the league next year. But we can certainly make greater strides than what people, I'd be settled for top half. They won't settle for top half. They'll want top 8 to be challenged for Europe minimum, and they'll fund it to get that, in conjunction with the process that Eddie Howe is implemented so successfully.
Bring on
I think what follows on with that, Stu, is the fact you were turning around. You look at Newcastle's performances this year. The points wise, there's only like Liverpool and Newcastle above them. Sorry, Liverpool and Man City above Newcastle. So if you take into consideration how well Newcastle have played without Trippier, without Wilson as well, you add quality players on that as well. Newcastle are already technically, if you start the calendar year in January, in the top 3, top 4 already.
We touched on that before, Rich. There's a lot of teams in transition, but the ones that we mentioned, the Man United's, Chelsea's, they're in transition, possibly going the wrong way. We're in transition going that way. So that's why I said it's crucial this summer to close that gap, which should take 3-4 years to close. We can close it in one really good window and then just tweak it every window thereafter if they get it right. And this is why it's so important that and I do believe, as Mitch mentioned before, they'll announce bang, 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 bang. Okay, there's the money. but they maybe not announced that until they've done the signings, because that puts the fees up as well. You know, so they let the rumours go. They've only got 50 million to spend. They've only got 70 million to spend. They're not bothered because they know what they've got to spend, and they'll spend whatever they want to spend. And as long as it improves the club, I think they'll be happy to spend it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Stu. You know, like, going back to the point you had, and a lot of the questions are from the the people watching are all about like who we're going to be getting in now and stuff like that. So go back to what we said at the very start of the show. You mentioned about 200 million if you have sponsorship and stuff like that, and you know I wrote down a few little names. You know, I think we need a goalkeeper. I think we need a fullback. You know, you're probably looking at a couple of centre backs there as well. Couple of centre midfielders, a striker, and a winger, ideally all the way through on that. So, you know, I wrote down a couple of, we mentioned goalkeepers the other day. You know, you look at Henderson, even, and then I put this name out there that I thought was a bit audacious, but he's only got 12 months on his contract, and an ex-teammate in Trippier's and Oblak, he's got 12 months on his contract. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, international calibre. You know, putting like a cheeky bid in for something like 20, 25 million for them sort of things. And then if you go back to the fullback, you know, there's possibly a good deal for Target lined up, as you mentioned. Or you could put like a cheeky bid in for Hickey, like you mentioned as well. You know, you're looking at 15 million. But then you've got like, we touched on about bringing in someone like Tarkovsky. Yes, it's not, you know, it's not going to set the world alight. You know, it's better than what we've got. But it also frees up money elsewhere for this to spend on other players. You know, it's like we could touch on, and I know Mitch is nodding his head. Look at Lingard. He's another one. He can add strength to our squad now. He's free. So that obviously it knocks on the financial fair play to other players. So, you know, you look at, I think that Tarkovsky is possibly one other centre back. Centre midfield, you mentioned Calvin Phillips. Fantastic player. We talked about it on Sunday night as well during the review show. There's a rumour if Leeds get relegated, there's a relegation release clause of 25 million on that. So you look at the going for something like that, because that's barely going to dent your FFP going forward.
Some of the Leeds lads over here have hinted at that.
Yeah, was it the Daily Mail reported the other day? I think it was on Sunday. I think they reported that as well. So you know that's something you've got to look at. And if Newcastle are wanting to, you know, take it serious, I think that's a deal you've got to at least look at. You know, there's the rumours of Piquet there as well. But even we touched as well on Boubacar Kamara, who was linked to Newcastle over the last 2 windows. He's available on a free in the summer as well. You know, you look at another international player that can strengthen your squad. That doesn't affect your FFP. Go up front. We'll look, you know, the names that are being banded about. Nunes, Schick. You're probably looking about 50 million roughly for one of those. And then then you look at the winger. I've mentioned Lingard, and then you know Rafinha's been mentioned before as well. And you can also look at the young lad at Forest, Brennan Johnson as well, who's a great up and coming talent. If you look at those 7 positions I've mentioned there, if you went for the most expensive one for what I reckon what they're worth, you're looking at 235 million if you bought the most expensive. Now there's not a cat and else chance you're going to get the top ones on each of them. But there's money to be worked around there with the fee transfers and stuff like that to free up to get the biggest statement side. Whether they're a marquee or not, if you come in with, say, 3, as you know, Stu mentioned, if you come in with several 40, 50 million pound players, people are going to start taking you seriously a lot sooner than they are than if you know 3 years down the line.
As long as they can justify it and they're not getting beaten with this big stick, it's Saudi oil money you're spending. But this is where the sponsorship comes in. And if you remember the players asked at the start, I think we got, was it 38 million or something we got to? And that was being conservative. I've always took the lower figure. So that gives you, and the players that you've just mentioned there, Richie, even if you've got 3 or 4, each, in fact, any player that you mentioned there is better than the ones that we talked about moving out. So that means your bottom gets stronger. And the ones that come in can either go straight to the team or like the Hickeys can learn and become squad players anyway. Then you start adding the sponsorship. Then you start adding the stadium naming rights or whatever, you know, and the money's there quickly without them having to. They might even only spend 50 million because the rest has been generated from outside sources. And this is what Mitch was alluding to about a CEO. The CEO will have to have global marketing connections and know how to maximize the potential in Newcastle is, because we keep using the word potential. We need to start fulfilling it, and the only way we're going to fulfill that is have a successful team at the earliest possible opportunity. But again, you've got to be in danger of growing too quickly or spending money too rashly, a la Everton. But I don't think we have owners or managers that are in that position where they would just throw money at people. So you're taking, even if we said Calvin Phillips, put him in with Bruno and Joe Linton as a midfield three. Now, Howe hasn't had a change in the formation, but let's say it's the same formation. You'd have Calvin Phillips with Bruno with a more freer role and Joe Linton prowling round, or Joe Elton as he should be called, prowling round. You would take that, would you not? Is it not an improvement what we've got already?
Absolutely.
So then you're talking about Chavosky, you're talking about Botman. Are they not improving what we've got already? And then look at as the figures that you give. I mean, the false figures, second or third for the year. Realistically, we're not the second or third best team in the country. We know that. And they were diluted with people having 2 or 3 games less than us. And we had a bunch of relatively less challenging fixtures. So the season will even itself out with, even if we finish the top half, but as I touched on before, add on the points that we could have won, could have, should have, would have. But if we had the same squad at the start of the season, would be comfortably top half, whether it be 10th, 9th, 8th, or even 7th. Then add the players you talk about, Richie. That's why I believe we can get top 6 next season. It's not out the realms of responsibility or possibility. It really isn't. And it's just because, and I'll, in fear of paraphrasing Mitch again, but because we've become that accustomed to failure or being fearful of hoping for something positive or wanting something better or daring to dream, shall we say, we can dream. We can and really raise our expectations, because if your worst player is your average player now, and then in 2 seasons your worst player is your best player now, we're advancing, aren't we? And that's what we've got to do. Some tough decisions have to be made player-wise, but if all these players come in, we have to stop being loyal and sentimental to the likes of Longstaff's. He's not good enough to get in this team as it is. He's not good enough to take this club forward. And that's a local lad. I wish the lad no harm, but if I was him, and I stress, if I was him, and I'm not, but if I was him, 24-year-old, I'm playing at my local club, I had all this, maybe the hype was too much for him, but I still think that injury has finished his opportunity of being an elite player, of being an England international. But I would still want to challenge myself. So why would I want to stay? Different for Dummer. He's near the end of a career, and and I think he could help with coach the kids in the future. But with someone like Longstaff, would you not be thinking, I want to go out and play regular football? I don't want to be sitting. Maybe he's not even getting on this bench. Not even named in the 19-man squad or whatever it is. I'll be in the 25, but not 19. I want him going out there playing every week. I could go to Fulham or a team in the Championship who are going to be pushing for promotion, get regular football, and make my name again. You've tried it at a top club, which we're not yet, but we're going to be. You look at the likes of the lad who plays for Aston Villa up front, Danny Ings. He went to Liverpool. He wasn't good enough, but it doesn't mean he's not a good player. And we have to start thinking bigger. You can't be scared to dream, and you shouldn't allow yourself to dream if you're just going to keep holding on to the past. We can't have it both ways. We can't keep the people who have held us back and want them replaced. And the squad's only 25. Write them down. Anyone, write down who you'd keep, and that leaves about 4 or 5 spaces. But you want to bring 7 players in. That's where that's where the tough decisions get made.
Stu, is that in your opinion? And I'll put this to everyone on the panel at the moment. Do you think that's the reason why Sean Longstaff's not signed the contract already? For that exact reason, because what you've just said about Sean Longstaff is exactly what I said on Monday. Is that, in my opinion, if he cannot get in this team right now, and yet we're looking to build and potentially bring in Paqueta. We've been linked with Calvin Phillips and various other players. All that's going to do is put him down the pecking order even more. He's going to play less football next season. And at 24 years old, is that really what you want? Is it viable for us just to keep a Geordie player in the squad because he's a local lad? Is that really viable for us and for him, or is it
I
better
agree with you.
to move on and play football and try and rebuild his career as we try and build our club in a different way?
No, I fully agree. I fully agree with that. And if someone says, okay, I'm happy to sign as a young lad, sign a contract, knowing I'm not going to get the other first team, I might get the odd cup run out, and I'll happily pick up a wage. You've got to question their commitment anyway. You know, then you wouldn't want that type of player. So it's a catch-22 with them. And I'm sure Sean's a wonderful lad, and it would have been fantastic for us all to have the Kevin Keegan and Sir John Hall dream of 11 Geordies on the pitch. It's not going to happen in this day and age, you know. So it's all right in a dream, but you have to be realistic with your dreams as well, you know. And look, his brothers went up to Aberdeen, didn't work out for him. He's more than good enough for that league. I can assure you, he's more than good enough for that league. But it didn't work out for him. He's went to Mansfield. He's dropped down a couple of divisions. He's got no airs and graces about him. He just wants to play football. And that attitude, if Sean had that attitude, he might have been playing more for us last season, let alone this season. But even then, he's still not going to get to the level where he's going to take us to be challenging for the trophies and the league positions that we've been talking about for the last couple of hours. Brutal, harsh, but probably realistic.
I agree.
Something else that the fan base have to understand and become is ruthless.
Mhm.
Lads, we'll
I think
wrap it up for
Norton
tonight.
wasn't working there.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up for tonight. We said we'd do 2 hours, and we're on the 2 hour mark.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say I have to bail. I've got work in the morning, boys. Unfortunately, I'm on
And
the early
it's-
call.
A couple hours ahead of you as well.
Middle East. So yeah,
know, yeah.
we're at the last get
Yeah.
some kip. So
The short
yeah, just
story is
want
not
to
good.
say quickly say, if you haven't subscribed already, you know what that red button is. Just hit it.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone watching
Smash
has. Hit that like button as well. We, as we said earlier, we're now 35 subscribers away from 3K. We want to get there before the end of the season. Get over the line. And if you'd like to become a member, it's $1.99 a month, and it gets you into this sponsor prize draws as well. Speaking of sponsors, shout out to our sponsors, which are blackandwhitearmy.com and 1881, both Bronwyn's brands. You know the range of merchandise are already, but there's also a loaded hat with the sun coming up out now. And if you happen to be out in the Middle East, why not buy a loaded hat? The profits from that go to the food bank, so check that out. Also, shout out to shybarnes.com, who Simon was in the chat earlier, and we already know the range that Simon has as well, and the profits from a portion of the profits from that go to mental health. And Pins and Prints as well. Check out the range that Dean has on offer there. There are loads of different pins and prints. It doesn't do it justice the pictures on the we're showing on screen. Also coming up, we must mention that tomorrow, and also as while you're subscribing to us, also give Toon Review a subscription as well. We are back. We're on the Toon Review show tomorrow from 8:30. So catch us there. Nifty little picture there that Paul has got and Susan have put together. Love it.
Yeah. You know what? The
I'm
four of
looking
you
Richie on that. Look at Richie on that.
the four of you lads came out all right on that. I've still
Brilliant.
got the whole Elton John thing going on.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced.
Sing it, Martin. Sing it.
Candle in the wind. Me ass, I tell you.
I love it. I love
That's good.
Yeah. Also, then we have away days coming up on Friday at 7:30, Pete. And Pete is working on that at the moment. Do you want to tell anyone about that?
Yeah, so it's going to be on Friday because Thursday's the big North London derby. So they've got a massive game on Thursday night. But yeah, on Friday we've got a pleasure to join us Arsenal Lounge. They've got a massive following. Not long ago, had Fabrizio Romano on their show, and they're going to come and join us. And we've got Arsenal Fans TV's one of their guys is going to join us, Dan Potts. Like I say, he's been a regular on their show at the moment. So we've got a couple of pods that are going to join us. The last home game, thought why not get not just one but two pods to come and join us to chat, and they've worked together before, so I think it's a great way to see out the season from that perspective. And I've been chatting to them this evening, and they are absolutely buzzing to come on and really appreciate us coming on the show. So should be a good one Friday evening. at 7:30. Don't miss it.
Nice one. And then on Tuesday, we're going to be back with the match being on Monday. We're going to have the reaction show on the Tuesday at 8. And then on the Wednesday, he's back. Like I said, Sean Casey is back. Our HP sauce. So if you like your transfer rumors and insider information, check out that one. It's always a popular one which Sean is on. And do we want to say anything about the show on the 25th? Or are we going to keep it in the back pocket, lads?
We can't do Mitch is here himself, so yeah, go ahead, Daz.
Mitch is coming back on with us again on the 25th. So yeah, the last time we had Mitch on, I was kind of said it'd be great to get Mitch and Kieran Maguire on the same show, talking a bit about the football pyramid and the trials and tribulations there. So let's make that happen. So the 25th of May. Lock that one into your diary as well. That should be fun. And you know yourself, lots of chopping and changing before that happens. And of course, the season is over. We'll know where we finish. We'll have a bit of idea on our prize money as well. That'll go in the kitty. And I'm sure we'll get Kieran to once again explain financial fair play. What do you think, Richie?
Kieran can't get Richie to do it.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for us tonight. Special thanks to Stu and to Mitch for joining us. Great to have you on again, lads, and for staying up late again. But
brilliant stuff. Brilliant.
That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, lads.
Cheers, everyone.
No
worries.
Have a good night. Take care.
Cheers, Mitch.
Okay, guys.
Oh.